you don't have to be a hypocrite as a Christian, right? You can humble yourself and say that you're not perfect. Hey guys, welcome back to my channel. Welcome if you're new here. My name is Kaylee and I'm so excited to talk with you guys today because I really feel like God has put some things on my heart and I want to share them with you. So today I want to talk about being a hypocrite, which I know sounds like, you know, something kind of like, I don't know, like a stigma among Christians, or everyone thinks that Christian people are hypocrites and like they'll look at like who Christians are and say like those people are hypocrites. And I was really thinking about this the other day because I was just getting ready in the morning and I was thinking back over my week and talking to God and saying like, wow, like I'm such a terrible example of who God is. Like I make so many mistakes all the time. And I told him, I was like, I'm a hypocrite. Like I'm not being the representing who you are, God. And I just kind of stopped for a minute and God asked me, he was like, well, what does being a hypocrite really mean? And I thought about it and I said, well, it means when you're someone who says something but your actions don't line up with what you're saying. So maybe you say, I am the best football player in the world, but you go and compete and you lose in the game or something. I know that's probably not the best example, but you say something and your actions say the opposite. And when I thought about that definition, I realized that I'm not a hypocrite because I openly tell everyone that I know I'm not perfect and I know that I will make mistakes and sin. That doesn't mean that I want to do those things, but it's going to happen because I'm human and I'm imperfect. And when you're actually a hypocrite and when you're saying something and doing something else, the Christians that these people are talking about are Christians that are saying, I am perfect. And they're living a life that is imperfect because we all are imperfect. So they're making a claim that is so high and so unreachable that they're always going to fall short. And I think that's something that's hard about saying those things, is you're representing Christ in the wrong way, because people who don't know who God is or they don't know God personally are going to think that that's what being Christ-like is about, is pretending to be good and really messing up all the time. And the difference is, I was, after I talked with God, I did some research in my Bible. And see if I can find this. Matthew 23 talks about this section of Matthew 23. It says it's a warning against hypocrisy. So I'm going to read it for you. Then Jesus said to the crowds and to his disciples, the teachers of the law and the Pharisees sit in Moses' seat. So you must be careful to do everything they tell you. But do not do what they do, for they do not practice what they preach. They tie up heavy, cumbersome loads and put them on other people's shoulders, but they themselves are not willing to lift a finger to move them. Everything they do is done for people to see. They make their, I don't know how to say this, phylacteries wide and the tassels of their garments long. They love the place of honor at banquets and the most important seat in the synagogues. They love to be greeted with respect in the marketplaces and to be called rabbi by others. So something that I got a lot out of this section. I know Matthew 23 goes on a little longer, and we'll get to that in a second, but something that I really got out of this is you don't have to be a hypocrite as a Christian, right? You can humble yourself and say that you're not perfect. But when you are following hypocrisy in your relationship with God, your relationship with God is all about you and not about God. Because you're glorifying yourself and you're saying, look at me, I am so great, I am so perfect. I don't have any problems, I don't have any flaws, I don't mess up, I don't sin. Be like me. And like it's saying in this passage, you must be careful to do what they tell you. So the things that they're saying are good. They're saying like, don't mess up, you know, follow God. But what they're doing is they're doing the opposite. They're not following him because they're so caught up in themselves and saying that they're perfect and creating this image. And by doing that, they're tying up heavy loads on other people. And it says that in this section. They tie up heavy, cumbersome loads and put them on other people's shoulders, but they themselves are not willing to lift a finger to move them. So they're creating this image of themselves as being perfect, and other people are looking at them and they're like, how are they doing that? How are they living so perfectly? I can't do that. And so they're weighed down by this stress and this burden of trying to be perfect. And these other people are living here carefree because they're not following their own suggestions, their own rules that they're making. And I think we see that a lot with people where when they're a hypocrite, people look at them when they don't know that they're saying things that aren't true, is they're looking at them and they're like, wow, this person is so amazing. Like, did you hear what they said? Like, they don't mess up. Look at how amazing they are. And when you really see what's going on, you realize they're the opposite of that. But they look so nice from the outside because they've created this image of themselves that isn't true. It's not an accurate representation of who they are. And like I was just saying, when you're living this way, you're burdening yourself and other people with being perfect. Because as much as we strive to be like Christ, and as much as we strive not to mess up, we are going to mess up over and over again. And the only way that we can step away from this hypocrisy that we find in Christianity and outside of Christianity, because there is hypocrisy all over. It doesn't matter whether it's in this specific religion or outside. The only way you can step out of that is by humbling yourself before God and saying, God, look, I know that I can't do this without you. I know that I'm nothing without you. I know that I'm going to mess up. And the only way that I can get to heaven, the only way that I can make it through this life is with you, God. And that's the only way that you can separate yourself from being a hypocrite, because when you've humbled yourself, you're no longer focusing inward, you're focusing upward. And that's so much more important, focusing on your relationship with God than focusing on yourself and what you can do on your own. Because honestly, I know that I'm going to mess up and that I'm not perfect. And I'm okay with that because I know that God is perfect and that He can carry me. Like, I don't need to have all the skills. I don't need to have everything together. I don't need to be the most talented person. But if I have God, I have so much more than anyone else because God is with me. God is on my side. So that was just a little thought that I had, and I thought I would share it with you guys, because I think that that's a big misconception in the church, is that we're all hypocrites. But the only way that you're being a hypocrite is if you're focusing on yourself and you're essentially lying to people by telling them that you're this person when really you're this other person. So I thought I would share that with you guys. I hope you guys have a great week, and come back next week for a new video. Bye!